Ladies and gentlemen, it's the Historical Gamer once again. Looking at Out of the Park Baseball 13. I'm actually in the process of putting together a longer review on this game. But in this process, I actually did want to kind of focus on, in my opinion, the biggest addition in this new round. I mean, there's a really big rework. You can tell that if you've seen my previous reviews on this screen here. There's a really big rework on the interface of the game. The controls are located in different places, although the options are all, for the most part, the same. The biggest difference here is there's a new live sort of simulation route, which I want to touch upon, that this game does cover. And it's really unique. It's not something I've really seen in the sports world yet, as far as games are concerned, and it's definitely something worth touching on. My review in general is going to focus on a lot of other things other than just this, so I did want to go ahead and give this the time it deserved, because I really do believe it's a very unique and special feature. So, first of all, I'm going to kind of set up the situation. The reason I'm going ahead and doing this video first is I was playing through 2012 as the Milwaukee Brewers. As you all know, 2012 has not been very kind to Milwaukee. They've lost numerous players to injury. They've become sellers. They traded Zach Greinke. And in my out-of-the-park baseball season here, things have turned out a little bit better. We did go on a tremendous losing streak. We were ahead in the division for quite a long time. We've fallen into third place here with one game left. I didn't expect things would line up this way, but right now we are actually in a three-way tie for the wild card, or two-way tie for the second wild card spot. Cincinnati Reds have taken the #1 spot. St. Louis had a much better year than they are having so far this year, and so did the Brewers here. But we are tied with Arizona. Go figure, our NLDS opponents last year in the regular season. We are tied with them in this game. Personally, I think, at least for the Brewers, I haven't been paying a whole lot of attention to the other teams, but, you know, I don't think the Cubs being 3 games over 500 is terribly realistic. But for the Brewers, it definitely, in my opinion, is. You know, if they hadn't lost their starting shortstop, their starting first baseman, a key pitcher, and if the bullpen hadn't all gone from being pretty much one of the best late-inning bullpens in baseball last year, converting 40 there was something like 40-0 when they led going into the 8th inning. Actually, no, there were more than that, but they didn't lose at all last year going into the 8th inning after they had traded for K-Rod. And basically all those same exact players going from elite shutdown arms to being terrible and not being able to close out games and leading the league in blown saves. You know, if it wasn't for something like that, they very well could be in position to make a run. I mean, they've had nearly 30 blown saves already this year as a unit. So, you know, if things had turned out differently, this is definitely a possible reaction, but Brewers and Diamondbacks are tied for the last wild card slot. The Cubs are just a game back, so it's a very tight race at this point, and there's one game left. It's a game against San Diego at home for the Brewers. So, I still have Zach Greinke. We were buyers. We ended up picking up Marco Scutero Gonzalez. The shortstop got hurt, as he did in history. So, anyway, enough with my yapping. We're going to set the stage. We need to win. We win, I believe we clinch at least a... Oh, that's not what I wanted. If we win, we clinch at the very least a playoff, I believe, with the Diamondbacks to determine who goes to the one-game playoff, interestingly enough. If we lose and they win, we're out. If they lose and we lose, I believe that would be another tiebreaker. And then if we both win or both lose, theoretically, there could be a three-way tie for this last spot if the Cubs win and we both lose. So this kind of sets the stage really well for the real-time simulation. Oh goodness, something just fell. And what that is the newest, the most interesting aspect of this new game you see here. Out of the Park Baseball 13 introduces this real-time simulation. So what you can do, as you see, it's real-time, literally 1 second progressing per 1 real-life second, starting at 11:35 when the first game starts, which is Atlanta versus Pittsburgh. So it's a very unique system. I mean, there are other games that have similar styles. For example, I know in FIFA you can you can simulate, not truly real time, but you can simulate through a game watching what's happening as the game ebbs and flows, and then you can interrupt it, jump into it, make changes, play. And that's something that a lot of games have used, or some games have used. But this real-time simulation where you have all the games on the scoreboard going through real-time, and don't worry, you can change the simulation time. I don't think anyone wants to waste 10 hours of their day waiting for one day to play out. But this sort of real-time element is definitely interesting. You can jump in at any point and you can look at the box score as things progress. You can also jump into the game at any point. So you can jump in, see what's happening. It doesn't simulate here in real time, so you do have to progress, space bar for one at bat, half inning, inning. So I mean, you do have to progress that way. But yeah, I mean, that's it goes in, and this goes into the whole, all the different screens here, which we'll be looking at more in the in-depth interview. But it's definitely very unique, and very different. So then there's an option here to leave the game, and Freddie Freeman just hit a solo homer. So I'm going to speed things up a bit. The next game starts at 2:35, Texas and Oakland. Now the reason I chose this is because Chicago plays at 1:20 p.m. Central Standard Time. If they win and we lose, they could slide in if Arizona loses. We start at 7:10 Central Standard Time, and the Arizona Diamondbacks start at 7:40, so the games are going to be overlapping. As you see here, you get statistical updates, but when things intensify and multiple teams are playing, you're getting all this different information going on all over. So it really kind of adds an interesting and unique element here. And we're going to go to a minute for a second. So 60, a factor of 60. So for every one real life second, 1 minute passes. To try and speed things up a bit, you can go much faster than that too. Also, keeps scoring updates down here on the lower left. So as one team scores or another team scores, you will be updated on the left. It gets pretty hectic if you've got a pretty fast speed on when you are playing with all the games under action. There you go, Philadelphia and Washington get underway. And then you also get top performers, which is another interesting little thing to see, who's having a great day, who's not having such a great day. And that will update as more games get going. So here you go, you see Philadelphia and Washington are underway, and we've got two different games occurring parallel. You get updates up here. Not sure. Yep, so the last action appears to occur up here. Neil Walker hits a 2-run homer, Pedro Alvarez doubles, and whatnot. You get a score up in the top, you get a time, it gives you Central Standard Time. I believe that it's updated for essentially your team. You can choose scores, upcoming schedule, which is nothing right now because it is the last game of the season. I don't know if you can initiate trades. Oh, yes. So this would be another interesting thing, is during the trade deadline you could also simulate in real time to try and, as you're making trades, you could trade someone in the middle of the game, although I haven't tried that to see if it allows you to do that. We'll go back here. You just go back to the live schedule by clicking on up top here. So it is a very unique feature. Houston and Chicago are underway. Not as concerned about that one. But yeah, so I mean, it's very, very interesting. It's very different. It's very unique. I really like it personally, as we see this this potentially influencing game getting underway between Houston and Chicago. Meanwhile, Pittsburgh and Atlanta tied 6-6. Philadelphia and Washington tied 2-2. None of those games affect me, but it's still interesting. Like I said, you can jump in, you can check the box score. Chicago is scoreless through 3. So this is the first full season I've played through in this game, and like I said, there's going to be a more intensive review before too long, but I did want to look at this particular aspect of the game because this is without a doubt the biggest change, other than the graphical overhaul, which is there. Oh, and Houston strikes first for 3 runs. Other than the graphical interface change, which is pretty substantial, I mean, it looks different, although it still looks the same, if you know what I mean. Everything is in different locations. The same options are there, though, as the original, or as the previous versions of the game. But it is a very fresh-looking game. I will say the inclusion of this feature is one of those. It's kind of a big rock, if you will. It's a big difference between the previous game and the current game. And a lot of games don't do that. It looks like Chicago is going to lose, or at least they are losing 4-0 here, which is good for me because it means that if Arizona loses and we lose, we're still tied. And it's not a 3-way tie either. But yeah, I mean, going on, you see a lot of sports games out there, Madden, FIFA. They don't do a whole lot to change year to year. Out of the Park Baseball does a pretty good job of including new features and new elements to the game. This is one of those. This is a big change. I have not seen a major studio make a big change like this with a game in quite a long time. The last thing that I can think back to is probably when Madden introduced Dynasty mode instead of just franchise mode, where he actually took over the role as kind of being like an owner in the financial side. I think that was around 06. That was probably the last time I remember a game making that kind of big of a change. Or maybe when kind of games started including the ability to simulate where if you were playing as one person, if you had like your own career, you could just play plays that your player played in. So like an NCAA, if you were a running back, you'd simulate everything except the plays that the running back was in. You know, it's one of those things that the big studios only make every 3 or 4 years, and it seems like Out of the Park tends to add something pretty substantial to the game, more or less every year. So I mean, it keeps it interesting. I gotta commend Out of the Park Baseball for doing things like that. But there you go. Chicago lost to Houston 4-1. So now the key game is Arizona down here, and of course Milwaukee up here, our game. Giovanni Gallardo, 15-7 with a 3.31 ERA, is going to be going up against Tim Stauffer. Game starts in 2 hours. We're going to accelerate this a bit more. You'll see as things change. I do want to drop it down a bit once we get to game time, which is 7:10. So we're almost there. This review's going on a little bit longer than I anticipated, but just kind of, like I said, getting the feel for this. They're the top performers, scoring updates, and the like. But yeah, so. We'll slow it down. So here we go. We're getting underway. I'm not going to look at the... I mean, I can play the game. I can jump in, be the manager, tell them to take pitches and whatnot. I can jump back out, which is definitely a really nice feature. We already showed can jump into the... Yeah, Ryan Braun. Ryan Braun, by the way, is having a very, very good year in this game. We'll jump in here and we'll look at the box score. He hits a home run in the first inning to give us a 1-run lead. That was his 42nd of the year. The 200 hits is a bit higher. He's missed a few games to injury. A lot of people talking about the steroids and all that, but still, he's having a phenomenal year. He's on pace to hit 40 like he did in this game, so got to give some credit there. And what's going on in Arizona? Arizona game just started. Now, one thing I would like, which would be nice maybe in future, is if you could kind of drag these over so you could have 2 games side by side. Scrolling isn't terrible, but it is slightly annoying when you're in this sort of situation and you're really trying to follow a game closely. Shoot, San Diego. All right. San Diego tied it. Meanwhile, Arizona is up 1-0 here. So we're tied at 1-1. That is one feature I think really could be beneficial to this game, is the ability to get the 2 games that you want side by side as opposed to having to scroll if they don't work. I mean, it's a minor quibble. It's definitely something they could add next year. But very interesting. One of the other things that they do a lot, and it's not through downloadable content or you purchase, but Out of the Park Baseball does include new features in their patches. A lot of times they'll include some new features, which, you know, people complain. All right, Brewers take the lead again. People do complain with a lot of games that they don't release them like they used to, where games would be full and complete. And to a certain extent, you could... Oh, shoot. All right, well, now we're losing 4-2. Arizona still has a 1-0 lead through 4. That is not encouraging. Double. Nice. Got one with another double. Bring him home. Yes! Alright, sorry. I've been kind of vested in... I don't usually play the games through this mode. I usually actually go in, hit the play game, and actually play through them and manage through them myself. So this is kind of a big moment for me here. Colorado ties it up. Nice. Well, we're up 1. 8th inning. But, oh, where was I? Sorry, my reviews tend to be a little hodgepodge because I kind of get off into a tangent or get sidetracked. But one thing that Out of the Park Baseball does do well, yes, occasionally they will, it's tied. Occasionally they will, but Colorado is the lead, all right. Occasionally they will release features and whatnot after the release, like I just mentioned in the patches. However, they have never charged for it. I know in their iOS application they have. All right, now we're side by side. In their iOS game, they have sold additional seasons and whatnot, but that's kind of a different thing. That's an in-app purchase, not really a DLC type thing, which I hope they do not do for the desktop version, which I haven't said, but that's actually what I am playing here. Arizona. Wait, did we just win? Yeah! All right. Well, we won. They are in the process of losing. They're down 1 going into the last inning. And I really do hope they don't introduce, like, downloadable content for this game on the desktop. I've never heard that they will, but I really hope that they avoid that. Because it is, oh my god. It is one of the things, it is tied now, by the way, if you didn't see. It is one of the things that definitely makes this game, it's nice that they don't have downloadable content. I don't have anything against downloadable content, but I guess what I am trying to say is that I don't like when you have to buy certain features that should really be part of the game. If they want to release some kind of alternate game mode in a DLC, I guess that would be okay. But my biggest peeve is don't not sell the game as you always have before. Don't make half of a game and then make someone purchase essentially the full game to get through downloadable content, which they have not done, and I will commend them for that. Man, this game is going a long time. But yeah, I just I want to know if I made the playoffs. But this is the newest feature in this game, and it's definitely a big addition. They, if you saw my previous simulations, I focused more on the simulation aspect of the Out of the Park Baseball 12. This is the 13th iteration, if you will, of it. But they've never had this before here, and I think it is excellent being able to watch as games progress, especially down the stretch. I mean, we watched through Chicago lost. We watched through the Arizona game, and Arizona won in extra innings. And we watched through the Brewer game, and the Brewers won. So all the games are complete. The simulation stopped. Now, what happened here? We've got a tie as the regular season ends. So a 1-game playoff at Arizona to determine the winner and the eventual playoff team. Well, that's not for this review, folks. I will probably include this in the next review if any of you care. But a 1-game playoff with Arizona to decide who gets into the 1-game playoff for the wild card. Interesting twist. So 2 1-game playoffs for the winner. I'm not a big fan of the 1-game playoff structure, but we will take a look at it. And if you like this review, definitely rate, subscribe, follow. It's a little bit different. I've never really done, well, I haven't, in the Out of the Park Baseball games that I've done before, I've covered more, like I said, the simulation aspect. It was definitely different. If you liked it, rate and subscribe. I definitely think this is an excellent feature that is included with Out of the Park Baseball 13. I wanted to take kind of a let's play approach to it, so not really structured. It was very on the fly, but like I said, if you like it, follow it. And until my full review of this game, which will be coming before too long, you have a wonderful day.